Okay, so get this. We're diving into the world of Brooklyn real estate.
Ooh.
Specifically, its office market.
Okay.
You might be thinking, why should I care? But trust me, this is way more interesting than you think.
Yeah.
We're looking at this report from Collier's that was covered by The Real Deal.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, it's all about the challenges that Brooklyn is facing,
Right.
trying to attract tenants to their office spaces and compete with Manhattan.
Yeah.
So even if you're not like directly involved in real estate,
Right.
this is a great way to understand trends in a major market.
Absolutely.
And what we're going to do in this deep dive is really extract some of the key insights from this report
Okay.
so that you can be in the know.
Awesome.
So the first thing that really jumped out at me was this idea of like an office glut in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
Like there's all this new office space,
Yeah.
but no one's renting it.
It's interesting because Brooklyn has developed so much Class A office space over the past 20 years,
Mm.
and it's created this situation where there's a really high availability rate in those newer buildings,
Like how high are we talking?
37.5%,
Whoa.
which is significant. It
Yeah.
really points to an oversupply.
Right.
And I think what's really interesting is that Brooklyn, unlike Manhattan, has a smaller pool of potential tenants,
Right.
particularly large companies.
I see.
So you have this mismatch between the
Right.
supply and the demand.
It's almost like they thought, if you build it, they will come.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they did build it and they didn't come.
Yeah. It's like 18% of Brooklyn's total office space is made up of these newer buildings.
Yeah,
And they're just struggling to fill up.
right.
Okay, so that's crazy. So they had this idea that businesses were going to be like fleeing Manhattan post-pandemic
Right.
and like
Right.
all flocking to these like shiny new Brooklyn offices.
It's this flight to quality trend that
Yeah.
you saw in Manhattan.
Right.
So Brooklyn was hoping to capitalize on that same trend. But it seems like they kind of overestimated the demand.
So it's like they built the nest before the birds were even interested.
Exactly. And now they're competing with the Manhattan market where office rents are becoming more affordable.
Right. So that's the other crazy thing. The rents in these new Brooklyn buildings,
Yeah.
they've been declining for 3 straight quarters.
It's a clear sign that the market is cooling down.
Okay. And like how much are we talking about here?
So the average rent for these new buildings is around $63 per square foot,
Okay.
which is still higher than Brooklyn's overall average rent, which is about $50.
Right.
But it does indicate a cooling market.
So who is actually renting in Brooklyn?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it seems like it's a lot of smaller businesses,
Right.
particularly in healthcare, education, nonprofits, and government sectors.
Wow. It's not the big corporate players that you might expect.
Right.
It's interesting. It's kind of like a different vibe.
It is. And you know what else is really fascinating is that
Yeah.
a lot of these companies are opting for smaller leases, often under 1,000 square feet.
Oh, yeah. That's that micro office trend that they were talking about.
Exactly.
So it's like the rise of the micro office.
It is. And there's this quote from a Brooklyn broker named Christopher Havens,
Okay.
who said this micro office market is strong right now because it's catering to companies with just a few employees.
I can see why it would be so appealing.
It's more affordable,
Right.
and it gives those smaller companies the flexibility they need.
So do you think this micro office trend has staying power?
Hmm.
That's a good question.
Or is it just like a temporary thing?
I think the appeal of smaller, more flexible workspaces
Yeah.
is definitely here to stay.
Right.
But whether Brooklyn can really capitalize on that,
Yeah.
especially with Manhattan right there as a competitor,
Yeah.
is something to watch.
Right, because Manhattan offers those lower rents.
Absolutely.
And it's got that public transportation system, which is a huge factor for businesses.
Oh, definitely. Public transportation is crucial.
And that's exactly what Christopher Havens was saying. Oh, yeah.
He said, why would you put 25 people in an office in Brooklyn when you can be in Manhattan, centrally located near public transportation?
Makes sense.
It really does.
Yeah.
So you've got this situation in Brooklyn where they built all these offices,
Yeah.
hoping to attract big companies.
Right.
But it's the smaller players that are showing up
Yeah.
and often going for these micro offices.
Exactly.
And all the while, they're facing competition from Manhattan.
It's a complex situation for sure.
So what do you think this all means for the future of offices?
Well, it really raises questions about how workspaces are evolving.
Right.
Will we see a move away from traditional offices altogether?
Interesting.
Will companies become more distributed with employees working remotely or in these smaller, more flexible spaces?
We're already seeing some of that.
We are. And if that trend continues,
Yeah.
how will cities like Brooklyn adapt?
Yeah, what will happen to all those massive office buildings?
Will they be repurposed?
Right.
Will they become something else entirely
It's like we're watching a real-time experiment in how and where people work.
Exactly.
And Brooklyn's office market is right at the center of it.
It's a fascinating case study.
So what do you think? What's the future of offices in Brooklyn? Let us know. We'd love to hear your thoughts.
Definitely let us know.
We're really interested to see what you come up with.
Yeah.
That's it for this deep dive. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
Catch you next time.